The night air in ancient Rome carried more than the scent of wine and olives. It held the whispers of silk curtains, the rustle of togas dropped carelessly to the floor, and the muffled laughter from behind mosaic-covered walls. The Subura, Rome's crowded and colorful district, throbbed with life after sunset. Oil lamps glowed in narrow streets, casting golden halos that flickered on plastered walls painted with gods and lovers. Above the taverns and bathhouses, up the steps of tenement blocks or behind the courtyards of the wealthy, bedrooms became private theaters, where desire, power, and curiosity played out in ways that would make even the bold blush today. To walk into a Roman bedroom was to step into a different set of rules. Marriage was a public contract, but passion often ignored it. Fidelity was rarely expected, especially among the powerful, and pleasure was a language everyone seemed to speak, though in wildly different dialects. What we might now consider strange, the Romans often accepted as routine, even celebrated. Their ideas of intimacy were stitched together from mythology, superstition, politics, and a hunger for sensation. A wealthy patrician's triclinium might be for dining, but his cubicula, the private sleeping chamber, was not merely for sleep. It was a place of games, rituals, and performances that blurred the line between love and theater. Some nights began with the sharing of oysters and honeyed wine, the taste sweet and briny, meant to stir the blood. Aphrodisiacs, from exotic pepper to rare fish sauce, were traded in the markets as carefully as precious gems. Couples, or groups, might test their potency before the act by invoking Venus, lighting perfumed oil lamps carved with her image, or sprinkling powdered myrrh on the sheets. There were games with dice, where the losers surrendered not money but clothing, one piece at a time, until modesty was abandoned entirely. Lovers sometimes dressed not as themselves but as gods and goddesses, Venus and Mars, Bacchus and Ariadne, playing out famous myths in elaborate roleplay. Masks of painted clay or carved ivory hid the face, allowing the wearer to pretend they were someone else entirely. In some wealthy homes, professional performers were even hired to act out scenes of seduction before the hosts and their guests joined in, the performance and reality melting together. Beyond roleplay, there were strange customs woven from belief. Some Romans thought it lucky to entwine themselves with a partner while wearing charms against the evil eye, small phallic amulets dangling from cords around their necks or ankles. Others, especially in the more superstitious countryside, smeared their bodies with herbal ointments believed to ensure fertility, their scent thick and musky in the lamplight. And yet, these were not only the amusements of the elite. In cramped apartments above the Subura, the poor also found ways to make their private hours vivid. Lovers might lie beneath thin linen sheets painted with crude but colorful scenes of lovemaking, images meant to inspire or amuse. Sometimes neighbors, separated by nothing but a thin wall, became unwilling listeners, the sound of muffled giggles and creaking beds part of the city's constant background hum. Among both rich and poor, there were games of power in the bedroom. Rome was a society obsessed with hierarchy, and intimacy was not immune to its rules. A senator might enjoy the company of a courtesan known for her wit as much as her beauty, paying her not just in coin but in rare gifts: a bronze mirror, a necklace of amber, a pair of sandals stitched with gold thread. For some, control itself was the aphrodisiac. There were whispered stories of patrician women ordering their lovers to serve them like slaves, feeding them grapes, massaging them with oil, or obeying strange commands during the night. The reverse was also true. Men of status sometimes staged elaborate capture scenes, where a lover pretended to be taken by surprise, adding the thrill of drama to the act. Exotic objects filled the wealthiest bedrooms: polished bronze mirrors to watch every movement, glass vessels filled with scented oils, handheld fans of peacock feathers, even silver phallic figurines used as charms or toys. Many of these items survive today in museums, silent witnesses to Rome's private pleasures. And then there were the feasts that flowed seamlessly from the dining couch to the bed. In certain circles, convivium gatherings became multi-room affairs where guests moved from food to dance to intimacy without any firm line between them. Musicians played soft flutes, dancers swayed in diaphanous tunics, and guests were encouraged to mingle in every sense of the word. A single evening could hold a dozen small encounters, each with its own story. But not all strangeness was about pleasure alone. Some bedroom acts were tangled with belief in magic. There were charms meant to bind a lover's heart forever, often involving whispered incantations during intimacy. A woman might tie a red wool thread around her partner's wrist mid-act, believing it would keep his desire fixed on her. Men might hide a scrap of their lover's clothing in a small lead box under the bed, thinking it would make her faithful. There were also potions, sometimes deadly, that promised to enhance performance or deepen passion. Many of these were brewed from plants known as both medicine and poison. Henbane, mandrake, and even cantharides, the infamous Spanish fly, were all used in doses that danced dangerously close to fatal. The thrill was not just in the act but in the risk itself. In certain homes, intimacy became a spectacle even in the architecture. Bedrooms were arranged so that a hidden alcove or side room allowed a discreet watcher to observe without being seen, a thrill for some couples and a form of control for others. In the grand villas along the Bay of Naples, wall frescoes depicted lovers in unashamed positions, their painted eyes following the living from the walls as if to bless or challenge them. Roman society was, paradoxically, both indulgent and judgmental about these activities. To indulge was acceptable, to be caught indulging clumsily or without style was not. The strange was embraced so long as it carried an air of confidence. Public morality laws targeted certain behaviors, but in private, the empire's bedrooms remained wild with invention. Even emperors were whispered about. Tiberius with his retreats in Capri, Nero with his theatrical unions, Elagabalus with his shocking games that blurred gender and custom alike. Their reputations, whether true or not, inspired imitators in every corner of the city. In the end, what strikes the modern mind as strange was, for the Romans, simply another expression of their hunger for life. They saw pleasure as a natural appetite, no more shameful than eating or bathing, and often richer when mixed with play, superstition, or a dash of danger. Behind those frescoed walls, under the flicker of oil lamps, they wove together power, desire, and imagination until the act itself became a story. And perhaps that is why their bedrooms, though long empty, still speak to us through the artifacts they left behind. The worn dice, the carved amulets, the bronze mirrors clouded with age, each one holding the ghost of a night when laughter and breath and whispered Latin filled the air. The ruins of Rome are silent now, but once those walls trembled with life. Strange, yes, but deeply, vividly human.